Hey, I'm Amanda from Trifecta Fitness. We're proud to be Clarksville's new Get Fit headquarters. Trifecta Fitness is a state-of-the-art spin and strength training studio. Our spin studio is truly one of a kind in this area, complete with 20 state-of-the-art live fitness bikes and an incredible sound system. Our strength training is done in small groups of 6 or fewer, and all of our strength and spin classes are scalable for every level of experience. Come see us in the heart of Clarksville, just behind MAPCO at the corner of Old Trenton Road and Wilma Rudolph Boulevard. Call us for more info at 931-542-6265 or download our Trifecta Fitness app for a full list of upcoming classes.
Hey, I'm Logan. I'm a Sergeant First Class in the Army, and I've been lucky enough to secure one of the charity slots provided by the Lifetime Foundation for next year's Leadville 100. In order to do this, I'm looking to raise around $2,800 over the course of the next year to donate to the Lifetime Foundation. A lot of their focus is on youth movement and nutrition and conservation, among other things. And it's a really great cause, and I appreciate any help that you guys could give. And a little bit goes a long way, and it'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
In October 2019, Arlington, Texas was chosen to be the home of a new national museum, unlike any other. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a unique home of military history. The 100,000 square foot museum will house exhibits, archives, and artifacts relating to the 3,500 U.S. troops who have been awarded the medal, the nation's highest honor for valor in combat. The museum will have 31,000 square feet of galleries dedicated to U.S. troops who have received the award. The museum CEO, former Navy SEAL and NASA astronaut Chris Cassidy, said the museum will focus on education as much as preservation. The building will have 5 areas dedicated to Medal of Honor winners from the Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, and Coast Guard. The main gallery will be located in a central plaza under a 25,000 square foot slab of steel, which will appear to be suspended in midair. It will be supported by 5 pillars. Black Rifle Coffee is a corporate sponsor of the museum, as are the Dallas Cowboys. The museum's board also includes over a dozen major corporations and 6 Medal of Honor recipients, including David Bellavia, Patrick Brady, and Britt Slabinski. Army Staff Sergeant Bellavia was awarded the medal for clearing an entire house by himself on November 10, 2004, as a squad leader in support of Operation Phantom Fury in Fallujah, Iraq. He killed 4 enemy fighters and wounded a 5th in close quarters battle. Army Major General Brady flew and coordinated the evacuation of 51 seriously wounded men during a firefight in Vietnam in January 1968. Slabinski, a Navy SEAL chief and team leader, led a rescue team of SEALs during Operation Anaconda in Afghanistan in March 2002. Slabinski and his team flew to a mountaintop ambush site to rescue Petty Officer First Class Neil Roberts, who had fallen from the back of a helicopter. Slabinski led the team through almost constant combat against an entrenched Taliban force. Along with the board members, former presidents Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama serve as honorary directors. The museum is expected to open to the public in late 2024.
All right. Welcome back.
Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation. The Misfit Nation Show.
We are a show founded by a veteran and hosted by 2 veterans and a military spouse. Our mission is to get people to tell their stories to the world. If you're an author, share your tips with the Misfit Nation. If you're a musician or an actor, our audience needs to know how they too can get into the business. Coaches, we love our coaches. Come on and share your tips with the Misfit Nation to help them become better versions of themselves. If you are a corporate leader or an entrepreneur, come on and show how you did it and how hard you have fought for success. If you are a veteran, first responder, or Gold Star family, we would love to have you come on and share your story with the Misfit Nation. We always have time for you. If you're feeling down, alone, or starting to see the darkness, stop. Think about those who are around you. You are not alone. You will be missed. If you feel like your problems will be a burden to those in your inner circle or feel embarrassed, dial 988. If you are a veteran, take option 1. We need you to keep pushing forward. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you are a new listener, welcome to the MisFitNation Show. Be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast app. Also on our YouTube channel at @the_MisFitNation. Subscribe and click the bell to keep you up to date on our latest episodes and all of our news. You can also find us on Heroes Media Group and About Face Radio. Now, let's get to the show!
To get things going. So let's keep Eastern Tennessee and North Carolina in your mind as we get through this, and they will get through this. To make sure your positive thoughts and anything you can give to the Red Cross or to any of those organizations. If you want to volunteer to get boots on the ground, go boots on the ground. Go with Team Rubicon. Save Our Allies is out there. There's a mule nonprofit company that's out there sending mules up the mountains. Greg Biffle from NASCAR is out there flying helicopters in trying to save people. I think there's 60 helicopters on the ground, private flown helicopters are on the ground right now doing this. So let's keep them in your thoughts and prayers as they move forward. And again, we couldn't go more than 2 days without losing an officer. Today, we remember Deputy Sheriff Lex Allen Love from Wise County Sheriff's Office in Texas. His end of watch was Wednesday, October 2nd, 2024. Keep his friends, his family, his peers, his community, keep them in your thoughts and prayers as well as they go through a tough time. And for whatever it takes, start looking each other in the eyes and talking and stop going right to violence. Violence should be your last resort. It doesn't solve everything. Tonight we have a good one. It's taken a while for me and him to get together due to scheduling conflicts, but he's here tonight. He's a U.S. Army veteran, a West Point graduate, medically retired United States Army Field Artillery officer. Spent 15 years on a personal healing journey. He's now dedicated his life to helping other veterans, especially men, heal and reconnect. So without further ado, let's welcome Scottie Schneider to the MisFitNation Show. Welcome, Scottie.
What's up, man? It's such a pleasure and an honor to be here.
Hey, it's awesome to connect with you, especially where you're in my sister from another mister's country, Colombia, right now. So it's awesome to be able to talk to you. I can tell her I was close to Colombia tonight by being here with you.
Hey, well, come on down and visit, man. We're always welcome of guests. I've got extra space in the house.
Outstanding. That's awesome. So, Scottie, if you don't mind, I just gave basically a 2-sentence introduction about you. I'd like you to tell the Misfit Nation a little more about you. And first, I'll apologize for the sound. The mic went down. I had to fix it mid.
That's perfect.
Awesome. I did a little hurdle in there, but that's what we do. But Scottie, go ahead and let the Misfit Nation know about you.
Yeah, man. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and share my story. I grew up on a farm in North Carolina, homeschooled, didn't leave the house much. My family was very religious. And I went to West Point basically straight. Like West Point was essentially my first, opening into the world. It was a pretty rough. Hey, Adam Peters, what's up, man? It's my good buddy Adam Peters. Also, have you had him on yet, by the way?
He's coming on, I think, next week. Actually, yes.
Okay, dude, you're gonna love that. You're gonna love that conversation, man. He's such a good dude.
Awesome.
Yeah, man. Grew up North Carolina, homeschooled. Went to West Point. That was a huge shock. I had to restructure my belief system when I got into West Point because this was in the middle of the war in Afghanistan and Iraq, and good buddies of mine were coming back in body bags. So I was really confronted with this idea of I had to figure out what I believed in and where I was going when I died and all this stuff. And that led to a pretty unfortunate conflict with my family of origin, who was very insistent on only one way of viewing things. And so I got out of West Point and became a field artillery officer, as you mentioned, mortar platoon officer and a fire support officer. Really enjoyed it, man. I was having a blast, but I bit off a little bit more than I could chew. in preparation for a special forces training slot and eventually Ranger School. And so while snowshoeing in the mountains of Alaska at -40, I got super lost because that's what officers do. And I froze off a toe and a half. So if anybody in the audience has been in the Army probably since 2011, you've probably almost certainly seen a picture of my mutilated foot on cold weather briefings. Like, don't be this guy. I was that guy. So I got out, man, and I didn't know what I was going to do. It was a pretty rough shock. I went into corporate chemical oil field sales. And I was like, all right, well, I'm not a soldier anymore. I don't really know what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to take the default dream that everybody says you should do, right? Which is go get a nice job and a nice partner and a nice house and a nice car. Did all that, man, and it didn't fulfill me. And worse, dude, I became a functional alcoholic. So I was holding down a job, but I can't tell you how many jobs and relationships I lost due to alcohol. And it took me a long time to kick that habit. So a couple of years in the oil industry, making good money, super unhappy. I was like, well, maybe entrepreneurship will be it for me. So I started a couple companies. My first one did really well. I was like, coded it in my basement, and in 8 months, it was doing $50,000 a month. I was like, yeah, I made it. But I hadn't, because that wasn't making me happy either, man. I was just miserable. It was a wreck of a person. And because of that, the business went down. And so then I started another one, and kind of same thing happened, right? Got it up to like $100,000 a month. I was like, oh man, I did even better this time. And because I didn't have the personal satisfaction or happiness in my own life, that also went down in flames. So then I started to get frustrated. I was like, there's got to be something more, man. I did everything I could. I got married to a Colombian, was introduced to their family. One of the things that I was lacking when I got out of the Army, I was estranged from my parents, as I think I might have mentioned. And that left me really looking for a home and for a family to kind of be adopted into, so I had this permanent kind of, hey, would you accept me? This insecurity around being accepted or being pushed out of or kicked out of a family. And Colombia is the country I've been in for 9 years now. It's my home. It's a wonderful country. The people here are wonderful. The weather is amazing. Everything is great here. But one of the things that they have more than anywhere else in the world that I know of is just this cohesive family social unit that feels like a warm hug, man. And that started to open my eyes to the things that I was missing. And I realized that in order to be a part of a community, I needed to learn how to be part of one. And it took me a long time to find the medicine path. That's what we call when you start to take ayahuasca or psychedelics or other entheogens. I started off with a couple of years of meditation, using acid, LSD. That got me a pretty good part of the way there. But it wasn't really until I took ayahuasca for the first time that my eyes were truly opened. And I figured that I was looking in all the wrong places. I'm going to all these families and saying, hey, will you accept me? And I'm trying to project this outward image of who it is to be a good person or who I want people to think I am, instead of actually working on myself to become that person. So now fast forward 9 years here in Colombia, now 12 years out of the Army, got out in 2012. I'm a musician. So I'm a guitar player, I'm a singer. I'm a facilitator and a helper in psychedelic ceremonies. I'm doing a lot of work with the indigenous tribes here in Colombia. And I've started a foundation nonprofit called Waking Warrior, whose express purpose is very much like what you're trying to do, is to get the story shared of our military men and women who are struggling. And one thing that I know is, although I healed through a variety of non-conventional medicines like LSD and MDMA and ayahuasca and mushrooms and all the stuff, that's not everybody's healing path. There are many ways to healing. And what I want to do is expose the stories of our men and women to say, look, how did you heal? What did you go through? And what did you use? So that if someone wants to heal with yoga, amazing. If you want to go to church, amazing. AA, great. We can put you in the right direction. And so that's what gives my life meaning. And so the amazing community that I built around me, the amazing home I created, because that's something I had to realize as well. Like, I couldn't look for a home to accept me. I had to create my own home, my own place in the world, and then accept others in. And so that's what I'm doing, man. And I'm tremendously happy in doing it. I couldn't be happier. So I guess that's an overview.
That's outstanding. That's a great overview. And it shows the audience a great journey of different, basically, culture clash for you. From growing up homeschooled on a farm in North Carolina in a religious family, they going into that beautiful place called West Point, Harvard on the Hill, wherever they call it up there on the Hudson, Harvard on the Hudson. And that's a different lifestyle, to go from being on the farm with family to being told every day how to tie your shoe, how to eat your pie, how I do all that stuff, and then become a field artillery officer and in the mortar platoon of all things. Those were my favorite people, the 11 Charlies.
You're pretty cool peeps.
And then you wound up in Alaska, and when you were telling that story, I can just picture that picture in the safety brief. Don't be this guy. Don't wind up like this. If you feel tingling, please stop. Do this. Clean it. Change your socks. Put powder on. Change your underwear. Do this stuff, and don't do this. And I can still see it. And I'm gonna have to go sit on a safety brief one of these days on Fort Campbell and see if they show that picture. And so I know that foot.
Yep.
That's awesome that you were able to get through that stuff. Just going through the things that you are doing. Talk us through what a ceremony is like when you're going through the healing ceremony with the tribesmen, and how it made you feel as you got through there.
Yeah, that's a great question, man. The short answer is it varies for everyone. It's very difficult to put like, here's how it goes, but I'll kind of do my best at a high level overview. So these medicines have been conserved and safeguarded in the Amazonian basin, typically Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, and Brazil, and the Amazon basin where it grows naturally. And now it's spread across the world to a variety of different places. It's being served in the US and Canada and Asia. They're doing yahe ceremonies, ayahuasca ceremonies. When I say yahe and ayahuasca, it's basically the same thing. But more or less, the ceremony goes like this. You'll do it with either an indigenous tribes person or someone who's been trained by them, ideally. And you'll take a cup of this really nasty tasting liquid.
Yeah.
It's made of two plants, a vine and a leaf. And so the leaf has the active DMT. Now, DMT is broken down by the body and can't be orally absorbed. So the vine has what's called an MAO inhibitor, which is an enzyme that prevents the DMT from being broken down by the body. So that's what allows you to have the experience. So that's like the chemical level of what happens. On the spiritual level, what happens, we say that it's a door opener. It's like a doctor, like a chemical doctor, a spiritual doctor that's sitting there and kind of guiding you through. So typically what happens is you take it 20 minutes to an hour later, you start to feel what we call like chumalo. It's like drunk in the medicine. You might feel dizzy or nauseous. You might see colors and lights. You might hear sounds. You might see spirits. But pretty generally, it shows you what you're missing in your life. Meaning, let's just say that you had some horrible PTSD experience. And every time you go back there in your mind, it really frightens you. It gives you anxiety, and you're kind of dealing with that like day to day. It might show you that experience in a different light, where you come away with a different perspective. Instead of saying, oh, I'm like really hurting about the men and women that I lost in that experience. You might say, look, well, I'm alive now, and that's okay. And now I need to do something with that because I owe it to them. So that's one way of an example of how it might come in and change your perspective of something. And almost invariably, it shows you the things in your life that you're not doing, or that you are doing that you shouldn't be doing, right? So, hey, I'm drinking too much, or I'm not taking care of my body, or I need to not be so anxious or react in a wrong way to my spouse, things like that. And so it really shows you those things in a way that you can't ignore. And it almost invariably connects you to some form of spirit. Sometimes that's, if you're a Christian, usually you connect with God or Jesus, and a variety of things in between. Could be a lot of music and singing and dancing. There can be a lot of vomiting, which we call purging. And so it's a purgative medicine, which we don't have a whole lot of in Western medicine. Purgative medicine is something that comes and makes you either diarrhea or vomit. It's the idea of getting things physically and spiritually out of the body that you don't need to or don't want to carry anymore. And so the medicine is almost unparalleled in my experience, in the ability to do that. So there are things that you might be carrying on to or dealing with in your life, like trauma or other sort of blocks like that the medicine will go in and get out of you. And so it's a really great thing to do from a physical perspective, energetical perspective, spiritual perspective, the whole 9 yards. And to a man and woman, everybody that I've talked to that has had an experience with ayahuasca has told me that it's been one of the most important and impactful experiences of their life.
I had another guest on. He went to Peru. That's what I was waiting for you to say where it was, and Peru was right where he went. And he's basically said the same thing. Except the purging part. He didn't share the purging portion, but that's something I never heard before. And I know, just like you said earlier, everything you're doing may not work for someone else, but it did work for you. Yeah. So you'll be a positive proponent of it, but you're not going to push it on someone because it doesn't work for everybody. And that's something that all veterans need to hear, that just because it worked for you, it may not work for them. It's just like going to a barber. If the barber cuts your hair today, it might be great.
Wait, what's a barber?
Oh, no, never mind. It's the person that might cut your hair at some point.
Got it. Okay, cool. Yeah, dude, I'm growing out like a braid, man. I'm doing the whole thing.
I couldn't do that now. The hair is stuck.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I guess it's also probably important to note that in the Western world, we have this idea of when we look at and think of medicines, we're like controlling the symptoms. So I have a headache, I'm taking Advil. Advil controls the symptoms. The indigenous and other modalities of healing usually look for the root of the symptoms first. So if you have a headache, well, like maybe you should go drink some water. Are you dehydrated? Are you looking at a computer screen for like 18 hours? Like what's the symptom stemming from? And so that's what ayahuasca does. It addresses the root cause of the problem. And it's not a one pill solution or a 1 cup solution in this case, meaning we say the real ceremony. So the ceremony is when you take the medicine, you sing the songs, you confront your deepest, darkest fears, or you experience incredible ecstasy, whatever it is. But the real ceremony is the ceremony of life. And so that's what the entirety of what I'm doing revolves around, because, well, what is life and what do we need to do to live it well? Well, we need to have our diet fixed. We need to sleep well. We need to have good relationships. We need to have some connection with spirit, or even if you're an atheist, that could be your higher self, whatever it is. And we need to be in a good direction in life. We need to enjoy the things that we're doing, because I think a lot of vets like have this permanent level of like, it's supposed to suck, like, oh, living the dream, another day, thank God I got through another week. And that's in my experience, an awful way to live life. And yeah, there are hard times, there are good times, and everything in between. But I live life with such an incredible joy, and I'm surrounded by people of incredible quality and character that I can't believe it sometimes. And I struggled so long. And when you're struggling and you're like just trying to get through, or you're depressed or you're anxious or whatever, it's really hard to imagine what it's like to live life with joy and happiness. It's almost impossible. And you almost feel irritated at those people when they tell you it's possible. You're like, just fuck off, man. But it is possible. And that's what I want to share with people. And I want to get them to the root of like, look, if you do yoga, meditation, what are you doing it for? And like, what habits do you need to do in your life? What do you need to eat? How do you need to sleep? How do you need to conduct yourself in your relationships with integrity and honesty and communication? How do you need to do those basic things? Because the way that you get there is I'm completely agnostic to that. I think we often get caught up in our ego about like, oh, this is the way I did it, so this will work for everybody. And then like you get all these like little ayahuasca or yoga or meditation salesmen. We don't need any more of those. We need people to say, look, man or woman, it's okay. Sit down, tell me your story. What are you struggling with? And I'm going to try to do my best to point you in the right direction. And if I can't help you, I'll help you find someone who will. And that's what really drives me.
And I think that's what we all veterans and first responders and basically anyone that's been through something that's traumatic or in their life, whether from being a child all the way through adulthood, needs to hear that right there. It's not one size fits all. The whole mental health game is, like you said, it's a lot of it's putting a Band-Aid on an artery, but you're just covering up something right now until the next day when something else happens and triggers something else. The Advil stops working, and we have to start moving forward with things that do work, like the ayahuasca or like EMDR or yoga, or going hiking in the woods, or just being one with the woods for a little while. That helps some guys. It's a whole book of things that can actually help people, but you got to be able to listen to hear what's happening and listen to hear what is actually available out there.
Dude, exactly, man. The medicine is inside you. And what I mean by that is like one of the things that I do, because I take a lot of psychedelics. Like anyone that knows me is laughing their ass off when they're hearing this, because it's an understatement. But every year I do this ritual that's called a vision quest. And so it comes from the Native American cosmovision of way of seeing the world. And it's 4 days, 4 nights with no food, no water. And I'm out there alone in the wilderness in a little ring. And I can't move, I can't leave until the 4 days, 4 nights is done and over with. And that's a way of connecting with myself. And the other thing I want to mention, in case there's ever a Marine listening to this show, you might want to explain that a Band-Aid on an artery is not going to work.
Yes.
Otherwise, they might miss that analogy.
Yeah. I should have been really clear with that one. I'm sorry. Unless it was a crayon on the artery, that might. But definitely, you're right on that. You hit the nail on the head on that one too. And their birthday's coming up, so they're all geared up for that. They're all amped up.
Oh yeah, man, they're high spirits right now.
And getting all the Crayola factories are getting bought out right now. So it's going to be a good gift season. So when you said musician as well now, did you learn music growing up? Since you said you were in a religious family, did you do a lot of music when you were growing up, or is this something that came later while you were down in Columbia?
A little bit. When I was a kid, I played a little bit of classical piano, and I tried to teach myself guitar. But this was the day, before like really reliable good internet or like online courses, and I really struggled, man. I was not good at either classical piano or guitar. And then I didn't play anything up until about 4 years ago. And so in ceremony, one of the most important things, like a lot of people that take Peruvian ayahuasca, the way of their ceremonies is a little bit different than the way they do it here. So in Peru, I haven't taken with a Peruvian shaman or medicine man or woman yet, but from what I understand of their ceremonies, it largely revolves around this idea of icaros, which is a song or songs sung by the provider or the facilitator to guide the experience. And so there's usually not a whole lot of like musicians or guitar around. Now here in Colombia, we go wild, man. Like there's guitars and drums and rattles, and it's a party. And the musician's job is to help protect and safeguard the energy of the ceremony. And the songs that we sing, you could imagine like a hymn, like a Christian hymn, right? Every hymn like is talking about one particular aspect of God, and it brings in a certain energy into the church service. And that's what we do, but with different spirits and animals and plants and all sorts of things. And so I was captivated by the musicians that were playing guitar and singing, because like when you're in that state, it is like the most beautiful thing that you've ever heard. Like one of the indigenous tribes that I take with are called the Siona. They're in between Ecuador and Colombia. And it's a brutal way of taking ayahuasca, man. It's like you take the medicine, and the medicine usually makes you feel very poor for a long time. Like you're just sitting there, like you got no energy, like you got a headache, your stomach feels like it's going to drop out of your body. You're feeling like vomiting and pooping all at the same time. And the fire is super low, because like that's one thing that you can take energy from, the fire. There's no music. You can't take any other medicines. It's quite horrible in a way, but it's a test of patience and a test of your dedication. And then it starts to open up. And so there's a time around 3 a.m, because you usually take it around midnight. And around 3 a.m, the musician starts to play the first couple of notes on the guitar. And it's the first sounds you've heard all night, except for the sounds of the jungle. And it is the sweetest thing that you've ever heard in your entire life. And I wanted to do that. And so that's what I'm doing, is I'm training with a variety of different medicine musicians here. I'm starting to learn rhythms and music and songs of the Andes, which this is my adopted home now. So I'm just surrounded by wonderful talent, and the creativity is exploding out of me. Like I believe that we have to keep a balance between masculine and feminine energies. So like masculine is like I'm going to build a business and I'm going to like work. And the feminine is like the creative and the expression and the emotions. And so I'm happy to say that I'm playing with all of those things now. I'm using emotions in my music. I'm connecting to spirits when I sing. And it really brings me a lot of gratitude to know that I've affected people's experiences in a positive way. And it's probably my number one form of expressing myself is through song and guitar.
That's awesome. And music is another thing that heals a lot of veterans as well.
Yeah.
Some of them just learning to play the instrument, and some of them moving past the learning phase into actually creating music and just using that to escape. There's whole veteran radio stations now, About Face Radio, which we used to be a part of. We're not no more, just due to streaming issues. Great organization, and lots of veterans on there with their own time slot on the station, just to rock out and do things to make them escape and feel better things. So it's an awesome way to do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up, man. That sounds amazing. Yeah, I should get on there and play some songs, dude. It'd be great.
It's a great organization. The show that used to be right before me was Adam Baum, and he's out of East Tennessee, so hopefully everything's good with him right now. And he'd always introduce me. We'd act like we were in the same building doing a handoff and losing each other's lunch or stealing each other's lunch boxes. But he was in East Tennessee. I was here. The rest of them are out west, Colorado and Texas, but spread out throughout the United States. All great dudes and dudettes. But like I said, we had to leave due to streaming issues due to using a Mac, and it didn't work as well with their streaming platform.
Oh, that's the worst, man.
Yes, but one day we'll be back and we'll hang out with them again, and hopefully we'll hear your music on there.
Yeah, dude, I love that. Ayahuasca teaches you to love everyone, but I'm still working on loving PC users. It's a process.
So you gotta get on both sides. Like work is on my PC. Here's my Mac. I love it, but somehow has failed me. And that one issue's failed me. We'll come back to it. We'll come back stronger.
Yeah, man.
It might just mean using a separate hard drive, but I don't want to go all through all that. So as you move forward now, you have the Waking Warrior, and I love on the website that you have diet, sleep, movement, relationship, spirit, and career. It kind of builds the whole circle of what makes a human tick right there. You have it all listed right there. What you can do for them as they come through. How many people have come through you so far, and how do they feel when they leave you?
Yeah. I've had the incredible honor of helping probably a good 20 or 30 vets by this point. We're just getting started, but I'm of the opinion that we all need to do our part, and starting small is where it's at, man. So if whether I'm making, a difference in hundreds of thousands of veterans' lives, which will happen, or just 20 or 30, I'm very happy with that. And it's been incredible to see the shift. A lot of times as veterans, we face things that we don't feel that can be understood. And we're also kind of facing a double whammy, right? So when we're in the military, we're not only not encouraged to talk about our feelings, like don't be a pussy, suck it up, take some Advil. But if we do talk about our feelings and request to talk to a psychologist, that could mean the loss of a job, a security clearance, anything, in there. And then you tack on top of that the Western society's role and expectations of men, which is to be strong and silent. And so I think we end up with these very brittle people that think they're being strong but aren't expressing themselves, and these emotions bottle up and blow up in ways that we don't expect, or leach out into our family members and cause lost relationships and lost communities and all this sort of thing. So I'm really passionate about doing that, and it's just kind of coming out of me, man. Like, I've worked on myself to the point I've still got a lot of work to do. I'm not by any means a perfect person, but I am a good person, and I'm living in integrity and alignment with my life's purpose. And I think once you get there, you have to start helping others. Like, you really have no choice. You just have to do it. You can't see someone suffering and then not want to do something about it. And so I'm doing a lot of work in the community here. So in my community in Colombia, we're going through a very difficult economic time and have been for a while. Colombians, as a rule, don't really understand how to leverage their geographical position to make money elsewhere. Opportunities here are very limited, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I've actually built a teepee. I call it the Coyote Teepee, after my spirit guide, the Coyote. And so it's a Native American teepee. I just built it a couple months ago, and it's a house and home for the community. And we're looking for people in the community around here locally that need more visibility, that need help, that need to come by and hey, come by and work the garden with us, or take some plants, or come by and learn how to play music or to crochet, or come by for a concert, and everything's free. And, I think that there's this idea of reciprocity, meaning come and donate if you can, but if you don't have money, bring us a fruit or a prayer or a hug or your presence, and it's all good. And so I'm doing things in my local community as well, not just for the veterans. And at this point, my entire life is dedicated to service, because I think that's kind of what we're supposed to do: create and serve.
And I think you have it on the top of your website. I think something about losing purpose when you leave the military. And that's exactly what you found. You found that purpose. You found the shiny ball to tell you, hey, Scottie, this is where you're supposed to be. And you have found it. You found your community. You found your calling. And on the show here, we like to say, reach one, teach one. If we reach one person, me and you talking tonight, we reach one dude or dudette just by our voices tonight, and we help them. That's a success for me. It doesn't have to be a million. One person tonight, that's what it takes. And that builds that bridge and builds that whole village that we need to succeed in life.
Exactly, man. It's like sharing a song or a prayer. We start praying and singing, and someone comes up to us and says, hey, what are you doing? I'm that's a nice energy. And then they start singing and praying, and they pass it on. It's a chain reaction. And I think that's what we have to do. And it's a beautiful process, man. It fills my heart to know that that's what we're doing, and that people like you and others, and Adam Peters, who I think is also on the call, all these amazing men and women are motivated to make the lives of those around us better. And that's how it goes, man. I think that's the only way to go. And I also want to say a thing, I get a lot of people that are well, what is my purpose? And they want somebody to hand it to them. No one can do that. No one can tell you what your purpose is in the same way that no one can tell you how you can heal. You have to figure that out on your own. And that's a hard thing to do. So like, well, what alternative do we have? We can wait and hope that someone's going to give us everything in a silver lined gift basket, or we can blame the people and organizations like the VA that we think should be doing it for us. But nothing is going to do that unless you get off your ass and start doing some work. And it's a hard road and it's a long road, but it's a road that's worth it. I kind of think of it in terms of like quick death or slow death. A quick death is like, I'm going to do the hard work and it's going to suck for a little bit, but it's going to be better at the end, versus a slow death being like, well, I'm just going to be sitting here bitter and angry because like the VA is a pile of steaming horse crap, and then blame your problems on everybody. And that's, I think, one of my most fundamental messages that I'm trying to get out to military veteran men and women. You got to do it yourself.
That's another message we like to show here is we'll give you a hand up, not a handout.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of our brothers and sisters get out and they get told they're broken, and they feel that some organizations tell them they're broken because that's how they sell to their nonprofit donors, to tell them that we're helping broken veterans and we're helping them heal. But are you really helping them, or are you just keeping them down and giving them T-shirts and swag every so often to make them keep coming back, or give them a trip to some city across the country and give them swag and make them keep coming back because they want that high of getting that swag and say, look what I got today. Look, I was on social media. And then they go right back into the spiral.
Mm-hmm.
So we hit the Waking Warrior, we hit musician, we hit ayahuasca, and now we got a question from Nepal. We have some loyal listeners in Nepal from Sanjeev. He says, we find our release at the peak of the climb, as do many other climbers. Do you think that release is close to what you were speaking about through the ayahuasca?
Yeah, not too dissimilar. So I think probably what you're talking about there is many of our listeners are probably familiar with a crazy guy, a Dutch guy called Wim Hof, who does his own brand of breathwork. And so the active ingredient, one of the major active ingredients in ayahuasca is DMT, which we all produce naturally. And so one thing that we can do is learn how to activate that DMT through breath work in our own bodies. And so when you're getting to the peak of a mountain, right, you've got extremely low oxygen, very high carbon dioxide. That can very often lead to the release of endogenous DMT. And so I would say the ayahuasca experience is like that, but a couple of hours. So it's a bit of a rocket ship. But I haven't climbed a mountain personally myself. The last time I tried that, I lost a toe and a half, and I've decided to not do that shit again.
It's not a good idea.
You go, buddy, and wear warm socks. Tell me how it is.
And maybe a puffy jacket. Make yourself feel good at the top. Don't forget oxygen. It's awesome. Your work actually, in a roundabout way, leads right into what our challenge is this month: resilience. To be resilient in what you do in life. How do we get our brothers and sisters to see that they are resilient and they can fight through anything that is put in front of them? I mean, you lost a toe and a half, you went through hard training, and then you bounced back, and look where you are now. How do we tell them that?
Well, I'm not sure if that's the problem. I think that we all know we're resilient. I think the problem is our definition of what resilience means. Right. So a lot of times we're like, oh, I got through this in the Army, I can tough it out. And there's this kind of like energetic, like crunching and kind of, I'm going to sit down and grin and bear it. I think resilience is a lot more about flexibility and flow. And so resilience to me is, hey, I'm not doing well. And in order to get through this well, I need to communicate that to my brothers and sisters. I need to have a support network that I can call upon. I need to realize that in order to get through this, whatever hard thing I'm doing, I'm kind of snapping back into that negative habit of just doing it by my own and not communicating. Like, so a lot of us shut down, right? I mean, when's the last time you got really, truly depressed? Like, you're not sitting around going, saying, hey, can I talk about my feelings? No, you're like, I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to get out of bed. And that's what I think we need to fight against. Yes, we are resilient, but it's more about how you experience that resilience that I'm worried about, and in a way that's healthy and communicative. And so I think of like bamboo. Bamboo has a very extensive network of roots. It's very well grounded, but it's also very flexible. So resilience doesn't mean that you can get through a thing without crying or without communicating. Resilience means that you use the expression of your emotions and your existing toolkit, which is day by day growing, ideally, to get through it in a healthy way, in a way that attracts others to say, wow, like, I realize that you're going through some really tough shit that would break most people. How did you do that with a smile on your face? So I think that's the real problem.
Outstanding answer. And Scottie, how do people, I guess, get in contact with you to maybe get some help from your coaching on Waking Warriors? Is it just a website, or you have other outlets?
Yeah, no, we have plenty of other outlets. So I'm actually quite busy now that I think about it. I'm building a retreat center in 57 hectares of land. Wow. So that's about like 130 acres or so in the Colombian, like, mid-alpine jungle. And so I'm building it's a self-sustaining community. We're going to be bringing primarily men to start, and eventually we'll open it up to men and women once I find a really great woman veteran facilitator. So shout out to women veterans. If you feel like you want to help me facilitate or coach, I would love to open this up to women as well. So I'm building that, and we're going to have regular retreats. Anyone is welcome to reach out to me in any medium, LinkedIn, email, through the website itself. We're starting our beta round of coaching. So I'll work with you one-on-one, and we will figure out how to get you to a healthy spot or a better spot as soon as possible. And then we also have a lot of ceremonies and stuff running down here. So I say this and people don't believe me, but people are actually taking me up on it. My home is always open. It is a community home. So if you need to get away for a little while, come on down. We got a bed for you. We got some space. We live in nature. It's great. The air is clean. We got good food. Come on down and rest a little bit. And so that offer is open. So I'm open to working with people virtually, in person. There's any variety of opportunities there. We've got a podcast running. I think we're about 22 episodes deep now. A variety of different people, military veterans that have healed through one way or another. So that's going. And I'm also appearing on great shows like this, so I can start getting the word out and also help empower your mission as well. It's important for us that are doing things in this world to support each other. So just talk to me, man, and I'll get you in the right way. Like, if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to want to go to the Stronghold with Adam Peters. If you're a musician, come on, let's hop on, let's jam. Any number of things, man.
Outstanding, Scottie. This has been great. What's 3 things the audience can do tomorrow to maybe have a better day tomorrow and then move forward in life?
Yeah. Well, and all these things start small, First is take advantage of failure. There's a great author, Scott Adams, who's the creator of Dilbert, that wrote a book called How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big. And he's like, look, if you fall forward, right? So pick yourself up. And even if you didn't feel like it, you still advanced however tall you are. If you're 5'1" or 6'5", you just advance like 5 or 6 feet, right? So start taking advantage of failure. Take one mindful breath in the morning to really kind of check in with how you're feeling. And the third thing would be open yourself to alternative healing modalities. A lot of military veterans like, oh, I don't want to do meditation or yoga. That's gay. Like, get over yourself and like go try something new would be my third thing. And don't stop, man. I know that's like 4 things, but like, don't stop, because every person is valuable, and we have a purpose and a mission to do in this world. And we can choose to not do that or to do it. And I want to see more of us doing that. And it saddens me greatly to feel that there are people who have reached the end of their rope, so to speak, and don't feel like anyone cares about them or that their problems are insurmountable. That is never the case. All problems are insurmountable, or all problems are surmountable. That was a bad sound clip, bro. We got to do it. We got to do it together, man. We got to do it together. So it's time to, lock arms with those of us that are in this fight, and let's move forward together. Don't do it alone.
Definitely. And you heard that in our introduction. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Exactly.
We all can keep fall forward and get back up, bounce back up. And you're 6 feet or 5 feet, depending on how tall you are. If you're a height challenged person, maybe 4.5 feet. But how many feet you are, you're going to make it. You're going to move forward. Don't fall backwards, and stay with us. Scottie, this has been awesome. A great conversation. I can't wait to see where you go from here. Have a great night, and keep doing what you're doing, brother.
Thanks, man. Thank you for your work as well. Appreciate you very much. If I can ever be of service, please let me know.
Thanks, brother. Have a good night.
Aho.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Did you serve in the military? If so, you can obtain a free lifetime pass to more than 2,000 federal recreation sites. These sites are located across more than 400 million acres of public lands, including national parks, wildlife refuges, and forests. The lands host activities to fit any lifestyle: hiking, biking, fishing, camping, and much more. Gold Star families are also eligible for these free lifetime passes. Plus, they cover entrance fees for a driver and all passengers in a car, or up to 3 additional adults at sites that charge per person. Obtaining one is easy. Just go to the National Park Service website, nps.gov, or the National Park Service app.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation Show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great Misfit Nation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are
Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation.